Have you ever looked at the world around you and just wondered, is there some kind of hidden design behind it all? Well, today, we're diving into a philosophical argument that says absolutely, yes, there is. It argues that a supernatural soul, a kind of controlling intelligence, is pulling all the strings. So let's break down the evidence the author uses, piece by piece. So, right off the bat, the author frames their entire case around these two huge questions. They're not just throwing these out there for fun. This is the setup for a very specific argument to convince us that the answer to both is a big yes. And the answer they give us is this idea they call the greatest creator. Now, this isn't just some vague, fuzzy force. No, it's defined as a being with super wisdom that's actively controlling everything, from the planet's spinning down to our own individual lives. To prove it, they point to what they see as undeniable evidence in the natural world. In philosophy, this is a version of what's called the argument from design, the idea that all the complexity we see in nature just has to point to an intelligent designer. So what's the first piece of evidence? It's something we've all seen, something so common we probably never ever think twice about it: stuff rotting. But the author wants us to reframe this, to see it as the wonder of decay. The text asks us to really watch a fallen apple. It doesn't just lie there. It goes on this whole journey, right? It starts to rot, then it withers away until just a shell is left, and then, poof, even the shell just vanishes. And then, bam, the author hits us with this really simple but powerful question. It's designed to make us stop and totally rethink what we just saw. For the author, this question is the key to unlocking a much, much deeper truth. And here is the big reveal from the text. The apple didn't just disappear into thin air. It was actually transformed. This process we call decomposition isn't an ending. It's a critical step in a cycle that's purposefully designed to feed new life. So, this is the real kicker right here. For the author, this whole process is just way too elegant, way too perfect to be some random accident. This idea that waste becomes valuable, that something corrupted turns into something wonderful, well, that's presented as direct proof of a perfect and considerate design. All right, for the second piece of evidence, we're shifting gears completely. The author takes us from a quiet orchard to the countryside of their childhood. And here, another seemingly ordinary event is presented as proof: a rooster crowing. The author recalls this incredibly distinct and predictable pattern. See, roosters don't just crow whenever they feel like it. They crow at these specific, regular times throughout the night. The author argues this isn't just random noise. It's a schedule people actually use to rely on. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. The author acknowledges the usual scientific explanations. Marking territory, attracting mates, but then basically dismisses them for a totally different interpretation. The rooster's crow exists for us. The text throws a direct challenge at that territory argument. The logic is simple. Why would a rooster waste precious energy defending its turf in the dead of night when all its rivals are fast asleep? It just doesn't seem to make sense. And it's the same thing for the whole mating theory. The author argues that a rooster would be much better off just resting and saving its energy to show off for the hens when they're actually awake and can see him during the day. So this brings us to the author's really unique claim. They suggest the rooster has no clue why it's crowing. It's just an automatic thing, an unconscious purpose that has been brilliantly designed to help solve a very conscious human problem: how to tell time before we had clocks. Okay, so we've got a rotting apple and a crowing rooster. Pretty different things, right? So how in the world does the author connect these two examples to build their final case for this huge overarching design? And this is where it all comes together. See, in both cases, you have an unconscious, totally natural process that happens to serve a conscious, higher purpose. The apple doesn't know it's becoming fertilizer, and the rooster doesn't know it's a walking, talking alarm clock. For the author, this can't be a coincidence. It's the signature of a thoughtful and flawless designer. And that's the bottom line of the whole text. These things are completely reframed. They aren't random biological processes. No, they are presented as deliberate, purposeful miracles designed specifically to help us out and pointing directly to the existence of this greatest creator. So we've broken down the author's unique line of reasoning. And the text kind of leaves us with this final challenge, a question for us. If you were to look at the world through this lens, just for a minute, what everyday thing around you might suddenly stop looking like an accident and start looking like a piece of an intentional, flawless design?